Monday video, huh? I don't think I've ever uploaded a video on a Monday. I say video, or whatever you want to call this, emergency meeting, I don't know, after the web event updated, some guy commented, you should do an emergency stream to talk about the new lore. Poor guy, he's never been to a stream before on this channel. Anyway, yes, the moon event updated, and in it we got a lot of lore. For instance, I think it's a safe bet that going into Nod-Krai, we're going to be meeting one of the 5 sinners of Conria, the Moon Hunter, Rarir of Solnari Rerir, and better yet, he could wind up playable. With that said, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to do an intro. This is the 3rd video in 3 days I've had to make back to back to back, and to be frank, I'm tired, boss. But nonetheless, let's get to work. Compared to the last update, the web event has changed in several different ways. When you first log on now, the moon presented to you now has debris surrounding it, making it much more similar to what we see over Notlan, but it's worth pointing out this debris isn't from the moon, as the moon is still intact. The second page of the web event is where the biggest change happened. The Wheel of Fate, which previously had 11 inaccessible points, is now entirely available to us, and they present to us 11 different factions with their own unique descriptions. Now, for those who pay attention to 5-star releases, during all of 4.0, we had 11 5-star characters come out, so it's incredibly likely that from each of the 11 factions listed, we're going to get one 5-star playable character, which is exciting when we start talking about what these factions are. So, what are the factions? First and foremost, there's the Fatui, and their description writes, quote, "The Pale Star Edict, that's highest of commands, has gone out. With it, the Fatui Harbingers have been summoned back to Snezhnaya and dispatched to Nod-Krai. The people stare and wonder, for what purpose does this army bearing the banner of the Pale Star come to their city, or perhaps the question should be, for whom?" Now, we've long known that the symbol of the Fatui is that of the Pale Star. There is a reason they're called the Warriors of the Pale Star, but as for what this Pale Star Edict is that recalled the Harbingers to Snezhnaya before dispatching them to Nod-Krai, this more likely than not came from the Tsaritsa. If I'm being honest, there's really nothing new here. We've known ever since the end of Notlan that the Fatui have been mobilizing to Nod-Krai, and there could potentially be several Harbingers active within the area. All this really does is tell us that, this was an official order from the Tsaritsa herself, and the Fatui being here indicates, well, we're getting another playable Harbinger. The next faction are the frostmoon scions, and their description writes, quote, "The descendants of the legendary Golden Realm who chose to find new homes among the mountains and forests after abandoning their ancient civilization. The one thing they never forsook was their faith in the moon goddess. However, with the arrival of the Fatui, it appears that their tranquil lives are about to fade into the realm of yesterday." Now, this is interesting. The Frostmoon Scions being descendants of the Golden Realm, this is most likely in reference to Hyperborea, the Golden Realm that existed during the unified civilization, the very same that the traveler from afar wandered through when visiting Teyvat, and the very same that had a divine nail run through it. Quote, "Yet in the end, such wild delusions and ambitions were brought down from the heavens, and with them fell deep blue crystal spikes. The Fae shrieked as they turned into icy silver mist, and in the space of a single night, the splendor of the Golden City was ruined by frost-laden winds." Now, the Frostmoon Scions worshipping a moon goddess should come as no surprise, given when the Golden City thrived, all 3 of the Moon Sisters were alive and active. Now, despite the text, making it sound like the Frostmoon Scions just up and left their Golden City, that's not what actually happened, as the reason they left the city was because of the first Cryo-Archon, quote, "And in a bid to seize the power left behind by the heavenly moons, a mad monk who spoke in strange tongues presented a treacherous plot to the Tsar of all Fae. Thus were the Moon Children hidden in their mountain forests, scattered, sisters driven by fate down divergent paths. So the real reason they left Hyperborea was far more devious than simply choosing to leave." The next faction are a brand new faction, the Lightkeepers, quote, the ancient organization that has long defended Nod-Krai's freedom and peace against the ceaseless incursions and wild hunt attacks launched by the Abyss. Now severely weakened from battles past, in the face of new threats, none can say for sure if the new generation of Ratniki will remain able to carry out their mission. The Lightkeepers are an old organization that was founded at the beginning of Nod-Krai. Given Nod-Krai is fully autonomous from Snezhnaya, they've had to rely on themselves for protection, so thus enter the Lightkeepers, with the sole purpose of guarding Nod-Krai from the Abyss, more specifically, the Wild Hunt, which we'll get into later. And it's due to the hunts the Lightkeepers are a shadow of their former selves, and their descendants, the Ratniki, are just barely clinging on. The next faction are the Hexenzirkel, quote, located at the edge of the world, Nod-Krai has always been the stage where conflicts and dramas unfold, one after another. How could the Hexenzirkel possibly miss out on this golden opportunity? The phrase located at the edge of the world does indeed match with what we're told about Nod-Krai, as its inhabitants are referred to as the people of the borderlands. Whether it's actually at the edge of the world, meaning on the other side is the Dark Sea, we'll have to wait and see, but the exciting thing is that regardless, the Hexenzirkel are finally becoming involved in the plot, and if we are getting a playable witch, the odds-on favorite right now is actually Barbeloth, given this wheel is called the Wheel of Fate, and she, of course, is a visionary. The next faction are the Wild Hunt, quote, the armies of the Abyss sweep across the wilderness and canyons like a storm, and if you venture close enough, you may even hear the eerie whispers. These lost, soulless monsters appear to be silently searching for something. I mean, this is just quite simply the Abyss. It's again due to the Wild Hunt, the Lightkeepers, and their descendants, the Ratniki, so that's an awful-ass name, by the way. Ratniki, I'd have fucking shot myself. Are sort of just, fighting for their lives. For more context, we do know how the Wild Hunt is described. Quote, with a great mournful wail, that army of spirits flew across the pitch blackness of the night sky. According to the folktale spread through the countryside, they were said to be a demonic host from another world seeking a harvest of souls. Others believe them to be the lingering phantoms of that ancient nightmare. However, what's especially interesting about the Wild Hunt is they're said to have a leader. Quote, then one night, a chilling sound carried over the horizon's edge. The leader of the Wild Hunt was abroad, galloping across the night sky. Whether this is the same leader of the Abyss that the Pyro-Archon Xiucoatl was referring to is unknown, but a playable character from the Abyss. You might be going, that's impossible, but let me remind you guys of Rarir of Solnari Rarir, one of the 5 bastard sinners of Conria in Chinese. Their name translates to Moon Hunter, and we're now going to the nation where they worship a moon. The next faction are the Knights of Favonius, quote, a small group of elite knights from the Mondstadt Expeditionary Force has followed their Grand Master across Snezhnaya, arriving in Nod-Krai. It is said that they have come on a crucial mission. Thanks to Jean, we have just recently found out that Grandmaster Varka had in fact taken his expedition of Knights of Favonius to Nod-Krai, so this doesn't really, come as a big shock. He's currently attempting to uncover the truth about a secret from days long past, but I mean, hey, look, playable Varka is playable Varka. If we can, give Varessa some big-ass thighs, we can give my man Varka some big-ass arms. Yeah, you niggas know what the fuck I'm talking about, bro. The next faction are the Voynich Guild. Quote, the merchants of Nasha town formed a commerce guild to maintain basic order. However, how could the outlaws that prowl between the islands be controlled by something as simple as mere rules? It seems the honor of striking fear into their hearts must go to the boss lady of the Curatorium of Secrets. A present-day Nod-Krai has been described as a, rather lawless area. I mean, Brother Liben got robbed as soon as he stepped foot into Nod-Krai, but upon reporting this incident to the Voynich Guilds, they got all his stuff back at remarkable speed. The Voynich Guild acts as Nod-Krai's only real policing force, and it seems like, from the description, their boss lady takes rather unscrupulous methods to keep hoodlums in line. The next faction are the Treasure Hoarders. The treasure hoarders have since spread throughout the rest of Teyvat, but their origin in Nod-Krai remains a little-known fact. The great treasure left behind by Reed Miller, the legendary thief who yearned to create a world without boundaries, is said to be buried somewhere here. Hilarious. This one is. For those unaware, Reed Miller is the one who founded the treasure hoarders many, many years ago, and now it seems like he founded the group in Nod-Krai. I mean, appropriate, really. Quote, a ragtag group of bandits whose traces can be found all across the lands, even in the deepest depths of uncharted domains. Although their main purpose is hunting treasure, they are also known to get rough with unfortunate bystanders who happen to be nearby. It's said the group's founder, Reed Miller, defined the treasure hoarders as an organization of mutual cooperation. You could define a lot of terrorist groups like that, by the way. I mean, it also seems like, he left behind some good treasure, good enough to where it seems like they have a considerable presence on the lands. Now, the next faction are the Snowland Fae. Quote, the Fae who once followed the first Cryo-Archon, the Bel-Ye-Sar, ruling the Northlands in their entirety. Though now shorn of their former glory, they still influence the nation in their own ways. One can only guess what path they will take as calamity draws ever closer. In mythology, Fae are just anthropomorphic spirits, so whether they assume that form in-game we'll have to see, but nonetheless, despite being followers of the first Cryo-Archon, who was called the Bel-Ye-Sar, they existed much earlier, as when the Divine Nail struck Hyperborea, the Golden City, quote, the Fae shrieked as they turned into icy silver mist, and in the space of a single night, the splendor of the Golden City was ruined by frost-laden winds. Now, no doubt the most interesting thing to come of this is the fact that the first Cryo-Archon was a Sar, meaning he was a man, and he was called the Bel-Ye-Sar, translating to white. Sar couldn't have been a brother, huh? That's unfortunate. This no doubt's played some influence on the Fatui's icon being the pale star, pale being white, but we'll see, we'll see how much. The next faction are the Adventurers Guild. Quote, Ad Astra, holy fuck, Abi Sosk? What is it? Abi Mosque? Like, the Muslim mosque? The guild's strong presence in an adventurer's paradise like Nod-Krai is only natural. A certain important figure from the guild's headquarters is preparing to welcome you as a sign of respect. Now, the Adventurers Guild is indeed, based out of Snezhnaya, but this is, I don't know, this just feels like Bill Gates coming to greet you in Compton, Who the important figure is, I couldn't tell you. The final faction are the Clink Clank Bukkake Craft Shop. Quote, it began as a small workshop after a certain prodigy used to research the world's best Crumbling machine, but over time, after the creation of many intricate inventions, it gained a new identity as a famous machine workshop. Be sure to mind your manners when begging that genius for a favor, though, or whatever component she gives you might be liable to cough out a nasty bukkake at any time. For those unaware, a Crumbling is just a Norwegian waffle cookie, so I guess, this place started out making cookies, but then just started making machines? Man, they got some crazy vertical mobility over there in Snezhnaya, huh? Or Nod-Krai. Sounds like a she is running the joint, a woman, and that's okay. And finally, we get an image of Nod-Krai with the words stating, quote, the frostmoon scions of Hisi Island pray to the moonlight in their hearts, sacred and unsullied. Yeah, that's all good stuff, Now, I won't lie though, 11 factions, 11 playable characters, what about the moon goddess? Damn well this company's releasing some kind of god this patch.